For the last 6 weeks, Keyvan Samadi has been on the run. Each night he moves to a different safe house. Brutally tortured for 21 days at the hands of the Iranian regime, he is terrified they will find him. His crime? Organizing medics to help wounded protesters. But even with his fear of being tracked down, Samadi still wants to identify himself. He wants to show the regime they didn't break him.
I set up a group of underground medics. We treated around 700 people. The regime was committing war crimes, forbidding treatment of the injured. I promised my friends to fight for them.
His friends, like so many Iranians, have been on the streets, protesting against the clerical regime that has for so long dictated their lives. For his defiance, Samadi, a medical student, was picked up by Iranian security forces and brought to a black site, a clandestine interrogation facility outside the rule of law, where many survivors tell CNN forced confessions are extracted through the most brutal of torture methods. These forced confessions have at times been used in court to execute protesters for crimes against the state. Samadi refused to sign what he believed would be his death warrant.
Why should I have signed something that I hadn't done? I'm not a terrorist, not a murderer or a saboteur. I only saved lives, that's it. My team and I did nothing more.
Unlike so many other victims of torture that CNN interviewed, Samadi was not blindfolded during his detention. Based on his testimony, CNN commissioned the following images to take you inside the ordeal that he and so many other Iranian protesters have been subjected to.
I was forced into a building hidden by trees, next to a girls' school. On the first day, the 2 guards kicked me. I vomited blood. Each day, the torture got worse. There was a closet in the corner of the room, filled with torture tools, electric cattle prods, different cutters, some syringes. They drugged me. They wanted me to stay alive longer, to torture me more. The guards started kissing me and licking my neck. They touched my genitals and my buttocks. On day 16 of my arrest, I descended into hell. They tied my hands and shackled my legs. They wanted to break me, to destroy me. They pulled my trousers down. I thought they were going to give me an electric shock again. I couldn't believe they were going to do this. He took the baton and went behind me. I was waiting to be beaten up. He kissed my neck and shoved the baton into my anus. And he said, "This is what us soldiers of the revolution do to gay boys like you." I was shocked and didn't know what to do. I couldn't even scream. I was dumbstruck and just cried in silence.
I can see the dark circles around your eyes. Do you sleep? Samadi believes that if he had signed the false confession as the guards wanted him to, then they would have hanged him for treason. He doesn't know why his torturers released him. He thinks they wanted him to die on the streets, a chilling warning to others. Based on Samadi's detailed eyewitness testimony and cross-referencing with satellite imagery, CNN has been able to locate the black site where he says he was tortured, in his hometown of Oshnavia. These are the trees that hide the unnamed building he was brought into, and this is the girls' school where he heard children playing in the courtyard. But this is not the only black site. Cross-referencing testimony from over 24 sources with satellite images, CNN found dozens of these black sites, which can be divided into 2 types. Undeclared illegal jails inside government facilities such as military bases and intelligence centers, and makeshift clandestine jails that typically crop up temporarily near protest sites. For instance, in this city, known for its religious pilgrimage sites, they've been using some mosques as detention centers, according to multiple sources CNN spoke with. This pattern can be seen in different cities across the country. In Sanandaj, we found at least 6 unofficial detention centers, Zahedan 5, and Tehran, the capital, where CNN was also able to locate 8 different pop-up torture sites. After speaking to dozens of eyewitnesses who were tortured in these different unofficial detention centers, the barbaric treatment used on Samadi was not unique. His experience tallies with other eyewitness testimony.
called me a slut,
rubbed himself against
naked
me.
with their hands tied.
Humiliation.
videotaping
No
us.
choice but to confess.
In total, CNN located over 36 clandestine jails across the country. It paints a picture of a regime meting out torture on an industrial scale, designed to crush an uprising that has posed the biggest existential threat to the regime in decades. These are photos of just some of the protesters that state hospital physician Dr. Mohsen Sohrabi and his colleagues treated in the city of Sanandaj, a major flashpoint in the crackdown of the uprising. It was an illegal act, according to the Iranian regime. For that, he too was brought to a black site and tortured.
They are a power in and of themselves. They don't follow any kind of human rights. There is no supervision. What kind of supervision do you have to have when people are being raped? They don't have any moral boundaries. They just want you to confess so they can prosecute you.
Dr. Sohrabi is also now in hiding.
You've had to risk so much just to do your job.
هر چیزی که
If I cry, it's not because I fear the Islamic Republic. It's not because of what I have lost. It's for the cruelty that people in Iran are facing.
Even as evidence of torture on an industrial scale points to the desperation of the regime, Iran's young protesters are equally defiant, even in the face of the unimaginable, torture and death. Na'am al-Baghir, CNN.